All right, 5:30, call this meeting to order. I'd stand and pledge allegiance, please. Peter, move your cover. Thank you. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, so meeting's called to order at 5:30, roll call. Connie? Here. Anna? Here. Rob? Here. Dan? Yep. Al is absent. Dee? Here. Tony emailed me or texted me prior to the meeting, said he wouldn't be able to make it today, so city is not, city utilities is not represented. Angie? Here. And I'm here. The consent agenda. I asked for approval of the agenda, approval of the minutes, approval of the bills. Do I have a motion?
I move to approve those three items. My second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
All right, consent agenda in part is passed. Building permits. We have one building permit from Mr. Paulton. He has added on to his garage without a permit. I had notified him, this is back in the August time frame, that any building in the county needed a permit, and he did not agree with it. We had to go to court to get a court decree to require him to apply for a building permit. In the decree, it required him to immediately, this is after our court appearance, immediately apply for a building permit. And he did not do that. He waited 31 days to turn in his building permit. The building permit was misdated by a month. It was dated in March instead of February. Therefore, we couldn't take any action. It was incomplete. We required, actually our attorney contacted his attorney and asked that he come up and he complete the permit and supply a drawing or rendering, which I guess he did. The building permit, that he submitted requests size of said construction 8 by 11 by 8 feet height. Construction material be 2 by 4 corrugated steel. So, no foundation under the requirement for square footage, which is true. Estimated beginning date was last October, before he had a permit. Estimated date of completion was in November, before he had a permit. I think everybody has been down by there to see the construction. The building inspector did look at the structure himself. He said that the structure itself was sound. He did have some concerns about the metal siding, particularly the sharp edges. There is nothing on this application that calls for a fence. So I assume you're gonna apply for a fence separately,
Negative.
and the reason for that is,
For the same reason I told you about the chickens and the building, they're both federally protected and neither one was required to have a permit or a license prior. If you would have read the laws that I provided you, you would have known this. Instead, you wasted city money taking me to court, just to find out that I told you the truth. These things are continuing to be protected, so you can deny it all you want, it's not going anywhere. And as far as the pen goes, last month you told everyone here that it was, Cordless said that it was unsafe and needed to be taken down. That is untrue. Cordless told me that I needed to cut a 45-degree angle at the stair step facing the Sandvig's home. He told me I needed to cut off the flap, the excess, which I agreed to do. He told me I could do that come spring when the weather permitted. He also said that if I wanted to make the city happy, I could paint it, but that would not be required of me. So now that everybody knows everything, instead of what your mayor keeps telling you, which is untrue.
well, let's go back a bit. In 2021, you were sent a letter requesting you to apply for an animal permit. You remember that?
Yep,
And your answer at that time was?
I was not legally required to, per
No.
federal code.
Your answer at that time was, they're not mine, they belong to my girlfriend.
No, that is not true. When I first got these chickens 3 years ago, I was never confronted anything about this. I've had these chickens for 3 years and nobody said a word about it. Everybody knew, but nobody said anything. Now I'm being targeted years afterwards. Okay?
Right.
That's why we're here where we are now.
Okay. Well, we have requested from our attorney to go back to court because you did not meet the requirements of the decree.
Right, so you're gonna waste more city money taking me to court on something that's federally protected, knowing that it's federally protected, because I provided the paperwork that states such things.
And how many chickens did your healthcare provider
It says chickens,
identify?
right? It says chickens plural?
I say what?
It says chickens plural, right?
Well, let me read what the letter says, and you tell me. Last paragraph.
Regarding the
The last
chickens,
paragraph,
I've already met the conditions per court on the chickens, so you have no room to talk about the chickens right now. Other than that they're federally protected, and the building that they're in also is federally protected with the pen, not the fence. It is not a fence, it is a pen to hold in animals. Not only that, but it protects my bees from the vinegar that the Sandvigs have been spraying over there. Which they're lucky I didn't catch them on camera. Because if I would have known they were doing it, it's a federal crime. And I would have pressed charges.
your building is meant to house chickens, is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. Then I think it's plausible, since you provided this paperwork, that I read what your healthcare provider said.
By all means.
It says, I am recommending an emotional support animal that will assist in coping with their disability. The presence of this animal is necessary
Is
to
that the
mitigate
one?
the symptoms that that they are currently experiencing. So, when I read this letter, it says one chicken.
Now, which letter are you reading? Because you're leaving out a lot of key information and federal codes that are listed within that paper. You're
Well,
only picking and choosing certain words to read off that if you're reading the one that I believe you're reading. If you're gonna read it per what it says, not what you want to pick and choose.
well, that's
out of
what's
it.
confusing about it, because it says two different things.
It doesn't say
So we
two
need
different
clarification
things.
on that.
No, we don't. I have met the conditions required of me when it comes to the courts regarding my chickens. We both know that. You can quit pretending with the city and everybody else that you don't know that.
Oh, I know what the laws say.
Right.
I
So
know
then
what
treat it
you-
as it is
I
instead of
know
what
what
you want it
you-
to be.
Yourself interpret. I know that what I interpret is different.
Because you interpret whatever the hell you want instead of what it is.
Okay, stop
Would
swearing.
you watch your language, please?
I'll consider it.
No, you'll watch it.
Well, then maybe you should read things how they're written instead of how you want them to say things.
Well,
Because there was a lot more on that paper that you didn't read. It does say chickens on there as well,
it
plural.
said breed, chicken, chickens,
Right.
Which is
Chicken
which?
slash chickens.
name of animal, chickens. Weight range, under 10 pounds, extra small, I guess. So that letter to me is inconclusive.
That's not up to you to decide.
Well, we'll take that forward, then we will have a hearing on that to determine whether or not it is relevant.
Well, the judge already decided it wasn't, so.
Now,
you
getting
can
back
waste more
to
city
the
money.
building permit. Have you provided a reasonable request for accommodation?
This is my reasonable request. Yes, I stated to you originally before you took me to court that this is for my therapy chickens, and I explained that to you. That was my reasonable request.
That,
You didn't agree with it, so you took me to court and wasted money. You knew all of this stuff before, and you still pursued it.
well, the court decree doesn't say one way or the other.
Really? The court decree was in my favor for the chickens.
I don't read that, but
You don't agree with it, but that's what it
I
says.
don't read that. Anyway. So it becomes a matter of whether or not this application gets approved or not.
In our ordinances, is it stated what the fencing materials?
It's a pen, not a
Well-
fence.
You just said fence, honey, so don't
I said
mince
pen.
words.
And I'm not your honey.
Under, excuse me, under chapter 155. What's that? Under building permits, says a written building permit shall be required for any building within the city, including the erection, reconstruction, alteration, repair, placement of buildings of all kinds, additions to buildings of all kinds, and portable or other buildings which are brought into or moved into the city. That's pretty clear to me.
Again, my federal code overrode yours.
I don't think so,
I know so.
all right?
Is there anything stated about
And then
fencing materials?
if we go to, actually fencing, I don't care if you call it a pen or a fence or whatever you call it, it's a fence. Fences in a restricted residential district which are permanent in nature or which are constructed to and intended to last for more than 6 months, will require a regular building permit. Okay?
Again, I'll tell you and everyone here, it is federally protected because it houses the chickens. So if you want to continue to pursue and waste money, that is on you. It doesn't matter if you deny it or accept it, it's protected federally.
Then we go to chapter 41, which talks about fencing materials. Fence materials. No person shall construct a fence for any purpose without permission of the council.
I don't think it's
unless
sinking
such
in.
land consists of 10 acres or more and which is used as agricultural land. Such permission shall not be unreasonably withheld when said fence is constructed for decorative or landscape purposes. However, fences for all other purpose are expressly forbidden unless the council approves a specific purpose and design. Such design and purpose shall be in keeping with the overall safety of the community and shall not be so designated as to present a potential hazard to residents of the community or create an appearance that will lessen the aesthetics of the surrounding properties and the community as a whole. All right. From my viewpoint, and I don't have a vote on this, that fence, or whatever you want to call it, is a piece of garbage. And it's unsafe.
Your truck's a piece
And
of
if it's
garbage.
unsafe, it's not protected by federal law.
It is. And I already told you, cordless told me the 2 unsafe things about it, and I agreed to take them down when the weather permitted.
And so what happens in the meantime if somebody gets...
Then they're trespassing on private property, that's what happens. Yes, you can shake your head
A
no,
child does
but
not
it
know
is
about
true.
trespassing.
It is trespassing.
A child does not know about trespassing.
Then their parents should probably teach them. Because I know mine did. And I know half the people here probably got taught that trespassing wasn't a good thing to do. I don't know what kind of parents you had, but mine taught me right.
Well, we'll take a vote on this. So, what's that? You see, Mr. Paul, a lot of this could have been alleviated if you'd come up front and said,
You were told prior to court.
no,
You were told
you don't
way
come
before
in
court.
and, you don't come into City Hall and flame spray the mayor and the clerk.
That was after you were at my house on my front door, on my porch, threatening me.
I did not
You
threaten
did.
I did not threaten
You
you.
did.
That is-
And then you sat
that's
here
a
in City
bald-faced
Hall and got
lie.
nose to nose with me. Nose to nose
I
with
came to
me.
your house to ask you what was going on with the building.
And I told you then. And then you sent letters
And
to
no,
me.
you didn't say anything about
I did.
animals or protection or anything.
I did.
Well, I think your memory is a little
Well,
vague.
I think your memory's a little vague. There, Mr.
We'll
Mayor.
wait for Lana to get back and we'll take a vote on it.
She walked out with her phone, so I don't know if she unplugged.
I'll go
it.
check on her.
And the only reason I rose my voice with you in City Hall is because you got nose to nose with me and told me you didn't give a hell if I was a veteran or what the hell I
No.
was. You were gonna pursue this either way.
I asked you to leave because you were rotten.
No, that was well after you got in my face and I got back in yours, rubbing my nose all over yours because you wanted to be in my face, remember? And then
There's
Angie
no
wanted
point
to
in
call
arguing
cops
with
and
you
you said
because
we
you
don't
don't
do
have
that
it.
here.
If you have any proof of that, you would put it out there on tape.
Then will do. I told you that day it was recorded. Do you not believe it was?
Yeah, you bet.
You bet.
Okay, well, enough of that, we're wasting time here, so we'll vote on this. So, do I have a motion to accept this building permit?
Same one we had before.
It is the same one we had before, it's been modified slightly.
He came in late.
And cordless is the one that misstated it. I wrote down the same date he did. So to put the blame on me was a little shameful of you.
Flip it over. So again, do I have a motion to accept the building permit?
At this time, I choose not to voice an opinion yet. Yes or no?
There's no motion.
If I have no motion, there's nothing to vote on.
I have not been down there yet, so I'll go check that out.
So I guess the choice is to table it until you had a chance to look at that. Okay. Do I have a motion to table?
A motion to take.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
How many did we get? Aye.
I'm call for a roll.
Let's do a roll call. Connie?
Aye.
Lana? That's a no. Dan?
Nope.
Rob?
Nope.
Al?
Yeah.
Okay. 2 yeses, 3 noes. Motion's not carried. Okay. Moving on. Hmm? Yeah, we did that. Treasurer's report, Dean. Sorry.
We're looking at January and February, I'm just gonna do them both together. I looked over the bank reconciliations for both months and everything appeared to be correct. CD report in January, you'll notice one fund earned interest. In February, 2 funds earned interest. Looked at the daily transactions for both months, looked at the accounts payable for both months. And then I went through the 4 time sheets, everything appeared to be correct, and I reviewed the general ledger entries for the month.
Any questions or concerns about the
No.
treasurer's report? Motion to accept the treasurer's reports.
I motion to accept the treasurer.
Second.
Second.
Rob, second. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, Dean. Council's comments. Any of the council have any comments? Al?
I don't see the sheriff here tonight.
Okay. Rob?
No.
Dan? Connie?
No,
Lana?
not this time.
Okay. City clerk comments.
I'm good.
Okay.
So we get to agenda items.
Thank you. Okay, the mayor's comments, 2 things. The DNR derelict building grant, we put the application in, we will hear back likely, end of May probably, to see whether we got any help with that. I still would like to take that building down this year, and we'll have to, if we don't get the grant, we'll have to figure out some creative financing to take care of that. The lowest bid we got was a pretty substantial amount of work, and it was, just under $20,000, so I think it's something we can afford. Next thing is I got a notification from, Iowa DOT that the Highway 15 widening and resurfacing will be slightly delayed. They had problems getting buy-in from the railroad. They finally got that, so they're trying to get out there and get the contract awarded. They figure the contract will be finalized, probably at the beginning of June, and they anticipate a later start, around the first part of July, maybe sooner. They're not sure yet.
So on these sidewalks, is that kinda on hold too?
Well, I'm not clear on exactly what part, if it's just the road part or if it's all of it together. Because DOT is running the whole show, so I don't know if they hired the same contractor or not.
All together as one contract.
Agreement.
There.
And the contractor might be subbing it out to somebody else. So we're not really sure. So that's, all I've got. Utility reports, there won't be any because Tony is not here. With a citizens comments sheet.
I'll go look.
And I take it there's no complaint forms, right?
No.
Okay.
No, that's just signage.
That's just fine.
This is the citizen comments, there was.
All right, we have no citizen comments. We move on from that, no complaint forms, no unfinished business, so new business, I'm gonna change the scope here, just sort of the order just a little bit, like Kurt to speak on the Pokie Economic Development delegate.
Yeah. If you don't mind, I'm gonna just stay seated.
Fine.
Okay. I'm here tonight because Jessica Fellmeyer, I don't think that you've met, maybe some of you have met her, maybe not. But they bought Bill Lincoln Black's property out here. And she is currently on our Pocahontas County Economic Development Commission. And she graciously has agreed to take my position as chairman, which I didn't know if that would ever happen with anything. But with that, I'm here to, well, for one thing, introduce you to her, but also then, the council needs to.
You don't need that.
We did that last month.
Oh, you did, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, so you've already done that, all right, sorry, I should have known that.
Yeah,
So the main thing is just mainly, introducing her to you and telling you of the change in the role there, and with that, you know, the main reason and what you did last month was change the voting to her to be the primary and me to be the alternate, which it is just the opposite leading into now. So, it makes sense to make sure the chairman is the voting member. So, I don't know if Jessica has anything to say, but, she's really taken a lot of interest in this. I'm really happy about it because it's not easy to get people to come into committees and things like that, and take their time. But, she seems very passionate about getting some of our projects started. And, I think with some other new additions to our council, or our committee, I think, things are looking, brighter, I guess, if you wanna say that. And, so that's the main reason tonight, is just to make sure you had a chance to meet Jessica, so.
Welcome,
Nice to
Jessica.
meet you.
Yeah, welcome aboard.
Happy to be here, happy to represent Rolfe.
Yes.
Got any comments or anything?
I'm not currently, I guess my plan is to come to this meeting probably a little bit more frequently, just so I can understand what's going on in Rolfe, what your guys' needs are, development wise. Do know that, I mean, I can give my cell phone
next time bring your husband too. We can use it.
It's 6 o'clock and we need to open a public hearing for the selling of real property. So, good enough?
Yep.
Okay. Okay, so we're in a public hearing for selling of real property. The property
Yeah, library kids are going back and forth in
is
the bathroom.
Yeah, I'm getting there.
Thanks, Sharon.
I'm a slow reader.
There you go.
All right, public notice is hereby given that the city council of Rolfe, Iowa hereafter council proposes to sell real property owned by the city of Rolfe deemed unnecessary for purposes. The real property is legally described as follows. Parcel is the east part of lot 3 and the east part of lot 4 of lot 5, Pocahontas County, also known as 601 Elm Street. You are further notified, the council will conduct a public hearing on the sale of the said property on the 13th day of March, today, at the regular council meeting, which we're at. Bidders will be directed to submit their bids by 4 o'clock. They did. No bid submitted may be withdrawn unless said bid is rejected by the council. The city council reserves the right to reject any and all bids. Parcels will be sold at the city of Rolfe on the conditions that the owner will maintain all grounds from debris, grass, weeds, and brush. Parcels will be sold as in condition, or the way it is. This parcel will be sold by the city of Rolfe. The parcel will be sold subject to lack of access and any other easements, encroachments, or any other environmental condition, the liability for which shall be assumed by the successful bidder. The city council will first receive all oral and written objections at the date and time of the public hearing. All parcels will be sold at quick claim deed only and without abstract. The buyer is responsible for all fees, including recording fees, transfer fees, and closing costs. After the public hearing, the council shall take action as to whether or not to proceed with the proposal for sale after considering the comments from the public. So we have 1, 2, 3. All right, bid 1. I, Alan Minkler, put $50 on the property at east part of lot 3, east part of lot 4, block 5, in Rolfe, also known as 601 Elm Street. Bid 2. East part of lot 4, block 5, east part of lot 3, and east part of block 5, Pocahontas County, Iowa, 601 Elm Street, Land Pratt. Bid is $101. Bid to the city of Rolfe, we hereby submit a revised bid of $502 for purchase of the following real estate for which the city has a hearing today for selling this real estate. This property located at 601 Elm Street, and legal description shall be in the full legal description of this property. Title on the deed shall be Charles Abbott Gunderson and Gloria Kathleen Gunderson, husband and wife. joint tenants with full rights and survivorship, and not as tenants in common with the mailing address of P.O. 164, Rolfe. Intended use of the property, give the property to the Spanish Church Incorporated that owns the church building across the street to the east thereof, or if it is unwilling to, for another appropriate use that is pleasing to the eye. So $502. So we have 3 bids. Any and all can be accepted or rejected.
Are there any oral objections, comments?
Are there any oral objections or comments? All right, then we'll close the bids and we'll close the public hearing and at 6:07, 6:08, and we will vote. So,
Do you have a resolution number?
7 resolutions, 702, I mean, you guys can discuss, or unless you all know, or somebody just wants to make a motion.
I
I
second.
want the highest bidder.
Yep. And I'll second it.
So Connie, so you made the motion, Connie,
Yes.
to the highest bidder, which is Charles Henderson. Anna?
and Gloria.
Yes.
Do I have a second to,
Lana was
Second.
and a second? So all in favor?
Aye.
Any roll call vote?
I don't know what the resolution says. I need to know what the resolution says.
Yeah.
He wants you to read, he wants you to read the resolution.
Okay. Amended resolution authorizing the execution of a quitclaim deed between the city of Rolfe and Charles and Gloria Gunderson. Whereas the city of Rolfe has previously approved and authorized the sale of the city property described as the east part of, east 1/2 of Lot 3 and Lot 4 and Block 5 in the town of Rolfe, Pocahontas, Iowa, also known as 601 Elm Street. Motion is made by Landon.
Or Connie, sorry.
Connie, to approve the following resolution. Whereas at a regular council meeting on February 13th, 2023, the Rolfe City Council authorizing to set public hearing to take bids on the mentioned real property. Whereas the property will be sold as is by the city of Rolfe, property will be sold subject to lack of access and any and all easements, encroachments, and any individual condition, the liability for which will be assumed by the successful bidder. Now therefore, pursuant to the provisions in section 569.7 of the Iowa Code, be it resolved by the city of Rolfe as follows. Section 1, the sale and transfer of the above described city property to Charles and Gloria Gunderson, previously approved and authorized, and the execution of the deed of conveyance dated March 13th, 2023, is hereby specifically approved with certain conditions, restrictions, and obligations on buyer as a condition of sale and conveyance. Buyer is responsible for all fees, including recording fees, transfer fees, closing costs. Section 2, all resolutions or parts of resolutions in conflict with the provisions of this resolution are hereby repealed. Section 3, if any section, provision, or part of this resolution shall be adjudged invalid or unconstitutional, such adjudication, shall not affect the validity of the resolution as a whole or any section, provision, or part thereof not adjudged invalid or unconstitutional. Section 4, this resolution shall be in effect after its final passage and approval as provided by law. Motion was seconded by Connie. Lana. All right. So, need a roll call vote.
Wait. Does that say it approves the deed?
I'm sorry, what?
I thought you read that the deed was approved.
Did you read the deed was approved? I don't think it says that in here.
Yeah,
It says execution of a quitclaim deed
Quick
between
claim
the city
deed
of
between
Rolfe.
the city of Rolfe and
That's it does.
you and Charles and Gloria.
Which part was it?
I know.
I read all the way down.
Where's the deed?
Where is it?
Yes. It says the deed is approved, I don't see a deed, you can't approve a deed until you have a deed.
This is approving the sale with a quick claim deed to you.
It says the deed is approved. You can't approve a deed until you have the deed.
That'd be resolution of the lease.
It says execution of quitclaim deed.
Yeah, the execution of quick claim deed.
That's the deed.
I don't know. This is a amended resolution authorizing the execution of a quitclaim deed between the city of Rolfe and yourself, so we need to have a deed on hand.
We didn't know who we were selling it to yet.
This resolution should be a resolution authorizing the deed.
This is, it's executing a quick claim deed.
Right, but it says the deed is approved, you can't approve.
No word in favor that says the deed is approved.
City to sale of the transfer of the above described city property to previously approved and authorized and the execution of the deed of conveyance dated today.
Says in the resolution we're passing, we're going to get to quick claim deed.
We have to approve the selling of it.
Yes.
But basically what you need,
That's what I.
what you need today is a resolution authorizing the deed.
Right, that's what we want.
But then after the deed is executed, you need another resolution another resolution approving the deed as signed. The second resolution does not have to be at the same meeting.
We've never had to do that, but we've always had a resolution to sell property, and then or to put up a public hearing, and then we have the public hearing, and then we make the resolution to sell the thing. That's what it says in Iowa code, and at the Iowa League of Cities website, if you go search selling real estate property, real property, the city. And this is what we've been using for years, it's a sample one that we get from Iowa League of Cities that we've been using for years. And it's always been approved in the courthouse and everywhere else.
The
I
courthouse,
mean, if you don't want property, I guess, I don't know.
I want to follow by the proper procedures.
Okay, well, we're gonna have to,
So we could do this resolution, but
And
once
then-
a deed is issued, then we would have to do another resolution.
okay,
Right, and you have to strike out the language that says the deed is approved.
we,
If you want me to do the striking out, I can do that.
Which part needs straightened out then? Let's just do this.
well,
We're approving this,
we're gonna approve this resolution and we'll get the rest of it ironed out.
No, this resolution cannot say the deed is approved.
So you can take care of that?
Yeah, I can just take a pen and
mark it off.
Well,
knock off
that's
3 or
what
4
we're trying to
words.
find, we don't see where it says that.
It says, previously, the execution of the deed, if you made it dated March, I mean, there's no deed dated March 13th, 2002. It says, and the execution of the deed, the main is specifically approved. You can't approve the execution act, you can't approve a deed. I could cross out the wording that's in Crawford.
The authorization and the execution of the deed.
That would help.
Yeah, okay.
You know your business, I don't know your business.
I understand.
Okay. Wait. You can read it.
Okay, do you want me to read this one section again?
Yeah.
Okay, section 1, the sale and transfer of the above described city property to Charles and Gloria Gunderson, previously approved and authorized. Hmm?
He just wanted to do that part.
Is hereby specifically approved with certain conditions, restrictions, and obligations on buyer as condition of the sale and conveyance. Buyer is responsible for all fees, including recording fees, transfer fees, and closing fees, so. We just had, we edited out, with Charles' help, some language here, so we can move ahead with this now. So,
And we need our vote.
so I need to vote. I need Connie,
Yes.
Yes.
Lana, Al.
Yep. Aye.
Okay, 5 ayes. So the resolution is approved, all right. Sorry for the confusion.
That's okay, then when you get the deed, when you get the deed signed and executed, it can be on the agenda for the April meeting to approve the deed and sign.
Well, thank you, Charles, for straightening us out on that. All right.
And pre-liquor licenses also.
Yeah, approve the liquor license, for the Rolfe Golf Club. So, is there any, comment on that?
One motion. Approved.
I'll second it.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion's approved. Next item is Glenn Munson would like to speak.
Back in 1986, wife and I received a community development block grant to update the house we were living in at the time. New wiring, new windows, and new siding at that time. Since then, we've replaced most all of those windows, kept it painted, put a new roof on it. And the daughter and her family live there currently. There were 4 houses that received the grant at that same year. One was right across the street from the Methodist Church, which is now a bare lot. The second one was Irene Mason, which is across the street to the west, which you just dealt with, that bare lot. The third property was, Elsie Timmons, which is the third house to the west on the north side, which was Danny Martin. It's been sold since then. I don't know if you recovered any of the grant monies that were incurred at those three, but I know the city spent the money to clear the two that are vacant. So I'm asking here tonight is for the council to consider releasing the lien that you have on that property against my property at 402-1.
What was the year again?
1986.
Couldn't ample time progress.
And I think.
When did they put the lien on? When did they put the lien
When
on?
we get that, that's.
1986.
Oh, yeah,
Time
when
of
we get
grant.
that approved for that grant,
Okay.
that's kind of comes with it for the process.
And I think, I don't know, I couldn't find all the details on it, if it was forgivable after 20 years, you had to live in it for that amount of time, or what it was, but.
This one back then, they didn't have a forgiving thing back then. Because it wasn't any state or federal money, the city put up all the money for the housing project, from all the research that I did on it. And only one of the residents paid back all of their money. And he's correct, the Irene Neeson's house was one of the projects, and we have since acquired the property and tore it down.
And I think the city stood the expense on Zona Peterson's, which was the south side of the street there.
That one wasn't in the folder for so I didn't know, that one wasn't listed on that grant, in that grant. That house wasn't listed on that one.
I guess my feelings, he's made the efforts and did updates to the structure, so I think he has set forth proof that he had intentions of doing what was expected, and the reason for the grant, I guess it was called at that time.
Is that a motion?
So I would make a motion to
Remove the lien.
remove the lien from said property on Des Moines.
There's a second.
Now we need to, there's forgiven cases.
Yes.
We have a motion, we have a second. Is there any concerns or any conversation that needs to happen, or any questions, or, do I have we have a motion, we have a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, motion's carried.
All right, thank you.
Yep. All right. All right. 28E agreement with the Sheriff's Department. I asked Angie to send everybody a copy of the 28E agreement. I hope everybody's read it. We can have a discussion here. I did not ask the sheriff to come over because I want to find out if there's any concerns or questions, or you think that we need to take some action on this or not. And essentially, the 28E agreement is that the Sheriff's Department will provide policing for everything that happens except for city code violations, nuisance abatement, that type of thing. So in that agreement, they would commit at least 20 hours a week to police actions here within the city. They give us a report every month. So is there any discussion that needs to happen?
It's $66,000 a year right now.
Yep, it is.
And it was a 3-year or 4-year?
4-year.
4-year agreement.
It was 60, then it was 62, now it's 66.
Goes up.
Yep, and has to keep up with, I suppose, inflation. That's the way it was written. So, according to the agreement, either party can terminate the agreement, with notice. I have not, personally, I don't have any issues with the way it's conducted. I don't know how you feel about it.
Well, I agree, we all wish we had a police force of our own, but that's not an affordable item. $66,000 sounds like a lot of money, but by the time you pay a salary, and you can't have just one individual, because they can't be on call 24/7. Do I want an officer right here? Yes, but I know it's not an affordable possibility. So I am grateful for what coverage we do get from the department, and yes, I wish you would enforce our ordinances and our codes, but I understand you'd be doing that all day and all night. So, I thank them, and we need to unfortunately continue on.
What if we just do this, till we get the town cleaned up? Suppose you guys can talk Steve into that? Probably not.
Okay, is there any other discussion that needs to happen on this? Do we have to have a special meeting to discuss things? Or do we wanna go with this?
Do you need just a motion to continue as is? I mean,
Anything.
No,
we don't
it's
need
already in
anything,
place, we don't need a
that's what I
motion.
was gonna say, it's
It's
my
just
understanding,
discussion.
yeah.
So if there's no further points to discuss, then we'll move on to the agenda.
Yep, we appreciate what you guys do.
Okay, next item would be, resolutions to put for sale real property, which is essentially, there's been interest in the schoolhouse. The folks that show interest would like to get the whole shooting match, but we're not going to give up the, I don't know exactly what that building was, it's the steel addition.
The shop.
Steel covered addition, I guess it was shop or whatever. They're still interested in it, so we have to, like all properties that we own, we have to discuss, and pass a resolution to be able to put it up for sale. I think we need to discuss if we have parameters for minimum cost, and then what, similar to what we just went through with this other property, that once we sell it, the buyer is responsible for everything. And if the building needs to come down, they're responsible for taking it down. Unless somehow we end up back with it because it's been vacated and we end up back with it. So we have,
There, if we do sell, there's probably gonna be an extra cost because the building only has one electrical account. So if we keep the shop, we're gonna have to switch,
Divide that out.
we'll have to, have a line or electrician come and, separate the electricity out so that there'll be two bills. The natural gas on it is already separate. The shop has separate, building itself has its own separate. The electricity is what we would have to separate.
So that would just, have to be added on to an expense that the buyer would have to incur.
so if you wanna set any conditions, now the time would be to set conditions so that they can be part of the resolution. Like I said, minimum cost. We don't know, to be honest, we don't know what that building is worth. It's never been taxed because it's always been a school building. So we don't know what the value is. We don't know what the tax value is.
Have to be
That
stated
would all have to be
what
determined by
what purpose it's going to be used for again?
The interest that's being showed right now is for storage.
That means inside the building?
that would be a stipulation that we would have to make, is that nothing's stored outside, it's all stored inside, or some such.
And they know where the property line is?
Yeah. And then whether or not to include the, part there that, where we have, some southeast corner, where there's kind of a little park there, there's a sign, some trees that were put in via grant and all that. So would we keep that, or we let that go with the school? That type of thing.
So you think these guys are serious?
I do think they're serious about wanting the building, but again, you have to decide what the parameters are on the sale. In other words, if you want a minimum cost,
Say that- do they
you
think
have to
they're gonna
identify
buy it?
that. If you wanna just let it go for whatever they bid, that's, it's
I'd
up
like
to
to
the
have them
council.
come to the meeting and tell us how much they want it. And we can work with them if they're not gonna cluster it.
Then, in that case, if people are in agreement with that, we could table this until the next meeting and ask them to come and explain it before we take action on the
Because
resolution.
if they're, you know, if we can't find somebody that wants to use it right, I'd say tear it down. You know, we don't need any more eyesores.
Are they aware that right now,
They're aware of all the pitfalls of the building.
all right, as long as they're aware of that.
We got an estimate what it would take to repair the roof. That was $44,000 a year ago. They're aware of that. They don't plan to heat it, is what I understand. Again, if you wanna set parameters, we can table this and then have them, come forth to the city and we can set up a special meeting or whatever and discuss, you know, what they see, what they envision, get their take on the whole thing. That's where you wanna go.
I agree, I'd like to see them.
Okay, so I have a motion to do that.
I make a motion that we have a party come in and then go from there.
Do I have a second for
I
that?
say,
All in favor? Alright. Now we get to, third reading of the water rate, the sewer rate, and the garbage rate ordinances. Bear with me, this is boring stuff.
You want to pay for one?
Yeah, I guess. All right, ordinance 238. Rates for water service. Water service shall be furnished at the following monthly rates within the city. This is Code of Iowa, section 384.84. Gallons per month, the rate is $23.61 minimum bill. That's for the first 1,000 gallons. All gallons over 1,000, all 1,000 gallons over the first 1,000, $5.76 per 1,000 gallons. Each customer will be charged a meter rate of $3 per month. Customers that do not allow city workers in to repair broken water meters shall be charged the highest water bill in their history each month until it is repaired. Repealer, all ordinances or parts of ordinances in conflict with the provisions of this ordinance are hereby repealed. Severability clause, if any section, provision, or part of the ordinance shall be adjudged invalid or unconstitutional, such adjudication shall not affect the validity of the ordinance as a whole or any section, provision, or part thereof not adjudged invalid or unconstitutional. When effective, this ordinance shall be in effect after its final passage, approval, and publication as provided by law. So, we need a motion for the,
I make a motion to approve the
Do I have
new.
do I have a second? Okay, Rob seconds it, so we need a roll call vote.
Yes.
Lana's yes, Dan?
Yep.
Rob?
Aye.
Rob, Alan, excuse me. Okay, Connie's absent. 239, same thing for sewer service charges. Each customer shall pay a monthly service charge, sewer service charge at the following monthly rates. First 1,000 gallons, $27.31, that's the minimum bill. Each 1,000 gallons over $6.67 per 1,000 gallons. Repealer, all ordinances or parts of ordinances in conflict with the provisions of this ordinance are hereby repealed. Any section, provision, or part of the ordinance shall be adjudged invalid or unconstitutional. Such adjudication shall not affect the validity of the ordinance as a whole or any section, provision, or part thereof not adjudged invalid or unconstitutional. This ordinance shall be in effect after its final passage, approval, and publication as provided by law. Excuse me. So, do I have a motion for the final?
I make a motion to.
Do I have a second?
approve the sewer rate.
Roll call vote. Al?
Yep.
Rob?
Aye.
Dan?
Aye.
Connie's absent. Approved. And 240, this is, solid waste. New provisions, the Code of Ordinances of the City of Rolfe, Iowa, is amending by adding a new provision in chapter 10607, comma 1A, comma B, which are hereby adopted to read as follows. Collection fees. Collection and disposal of the solid waste as provided in this chapter are declared to be beneficial to the property served or eligible to be served, and there shall be levied in collected fees. Therefore, in accordance with the following: schedule of fees, normal waste. Excuse me. Residential, 2 32-gallon bag minimum, $11.57. 90-gallon city dumpster, $21.04. Rural, $21.04. Light commercial, $11 plus tax. Medium commercial, 90-gallon, $21.04 plus tax. One dumpster, one time a week, $75 plus tax. One dumpster twice a week, $150 plus tax. Two dumpsters, one time a week, $150 plus tax. Two dumpsters, 2 times a week, $300 plus tax. Dumpster rent, each dump, $78.90. 3 dumpsters, one time a week, $225 plus tax. 3 dumpsters, 2 times a week, $450 plus tax. Extra fee waste removal. Additional volume stickers are $4. Extra garbage with no stickers are $5. White goods and small appliances, electronic waste. Furniture, prices that we charge are equal to transfer station rates. All extra fee charges must be paid in advance of the scheduled pickup. Repealer. All ordinances or parts of ordinances in conflict with the provisions of this ordinance are hereby repealed. Severability. If any section, provision, or part of this ordinance shall be adjudged invalid or unconstitutional, such adjudication shall not affect the validity of the ordinance as a whole or any section, provision, or part thereof not adjudged invalid or unconstitutional. When effective, this ordinance shall be in effect after its final passage, approval, and publication as provided by law. So, do I have a second, or excuse me, do I have a motion for the third reading?
I second.
Dan? Lana seconds, so we'll call vote. Lana? Rob?
Aye.
Yeah? Dan? Connie's not here, so resolution carried. Excuse me. And metal recycling. Currently, we don't have a way to transport the dumpsters that the metal recycling is done. We don't have a way to put it into a vehicle without hand picking it to take it over to Swan Lake or wherever they recycle. So my thought was, ask the council, would the council be amenable to offering up to someone, you take care of emptying this and cleanup and disposal of the metal, and you can have the proceeds from, your efforts. And that way, the city doesn't have to try and figure out how to dump that thing out in small batches and get it over to recycling. Somebody else takes it. Takes the load off of our guys, it saves a little bit of money, we still get to clean up. We would just go out with an agreement with whatever interested party that, with the particulars about, you need to do this, you need to keep it cleaned up, you need to get this stuff out of the city. As soon as you empty the dumpsters, it needs to leave. It can't just sit around in your yard or whatever. So, I don't know how you feel about that, I'm just bringing it up as a possible solution.
Connie was concerned that she had dumpsters and there was people going through the dumpsters, of course, to try to take metals or whatever that it was. She was concerned about people stealing crap out of the dumpsters and, what have you.
And we do have a little problem with people understanding what metal is, because we get all sorts of things in the recycling. We get insulation, styrofoam. People say I saw a whole pile of bad insulation in there because it had paper on the face. So that's not what recycling is about, but can't teach some people. Anyway, I'm just bringing that up as food for thought. If you want to take some action on it, fine. If you want to hold off and give it some thought, that's fine too.
Do we get a lot of metal brought to that
Tin
area?
cans, like your vegetable cans, that's basically what it's full of.
Oh, okay. See, when I think metal, I keep thinking metal, like
Yeah,
pieces of.
it's the tin cans and such.
Okay.
But we get toasters in there, and microwaves, and, glassware, and all sorts of stuff.
So you actually think you can find some way to take that?
I'm sure that if the city wanted to offer up something like that, there are people out there that would do that. And again, we would set provisions that once you empty the dumpster, it goes. It cannot sit in a side
So
yard or
our
a vehicle or.
recycling bins still have an area supposedly for metal, and then that party would have to remove it from our.
Yeah, basically they empty our dumpster,
Okay.
so. But if you wanna think on that, or,
Is there a label on the one that is just for metal?
it calls
It
metal
says-
cans,
It says tin cans on it.
yeah, tin cans. So,
I'll make a motion if you can find somebody to take it, and get it out of town,
okay, so
go for it.
we'll have to write up an agreement, so I guess what I'll do is I'll write something up and then we can present it to the council for approval the next time and see if it's worth sending out. All right, we can do that. All right, nuisance abatements, it's the last item on the agenda. Sent out a couple of letters, they went out, as do all the letters, they go out through the mail, as not registered, but certified. And they were sent out, typically, after 15 days, if they haven't been picked up, they get returned to the city. And so we're waiting on those to be, see whether they pick them up or whether we had to get them back from the post office. And we get them back to the post office, then we'll turn them over to the sheriff's department. And the sheriff can, for a fee, will deliver them. So, and that's to be expected, so. Anyway, that's where we're at, so. That takes care of all the business. Is there any questions or concerns or anything like that? All right, we'll have a motion to adjourn.
I moved to adjourn.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor? Okay. Meeting's over.